Hi, I'm Tim, welcome to our channel, and thanks for logging on. If you enjoy these videos, do me a favor and subscribe to our YouTube channel right here at Watchbox Reviews. I would really appreciate it, and I'd be able to send you watches like this straight to your inbox as soon as tomorrow. If you like this watch, you can purchase it on thewatchbox.com. Yes, we've built a website big enough to contain even this Devon Tread 1B. Buy, trade, and sell luxury watches 24 hours a day and globally on the Watchbox. I've kind of given up the game because I already explained that we are discussing the Devon Tread 1B, but it's a watch so big it merits mentioning twice. Back in the late 2000s, Scott Devon, erstwhile Texas toast and garlic bread frozen freezer aisle magnate, decided that he wanted to build a branded sports car. He tried. Valiant effort to buy the Dodge Viper factory out of Chrysler's bankruptcy. They decided to keep it all together when they got the government bailout. As a result, Scott Devon pursued his second love, luxury watches, putting together a team of California-based designers and aerospace suppliers who ultimately created the watch you see here, shown at Basel that year and awarded by the GBHG inasmuch as it was recognized and nominated for the Concept Watch Prize. The timepiece represents a sort of hybrid of mech and electronics, as it's easily the most mechanical electronic watch I've ever encountered. Let's talk about the fit though, because that's the elephant in the room, the elephant-sized watch. It's hard to measure. It's 53.5 millimeters from what would conventionally be, I guess, 9 to 3 across the wrist. And depending on how you measure it, you'll find it's between 17 and 19 millimeters thick. Let's just call it 18. Really, it's the lug-to-lug dimension that sets this one apart. The case itself is 48 millimeters across the wrist, but if you measure one double-bolted side to the opposite double-bolted flank, those are rigid parts of the case, and then the watch spans Brobdingnagian 68 millimeters across the wrist. This is a timepiece that looks like a giant, but is actually made for normal wrists. My 16-centimeter wrist is tiny. I'm a skinny guy. My wrist is small. The watch sits comfortably. I would have no difficulty wearing this watch every day, even though Scott Devon, the man himself, has said this is not an everyday watch. Make no mistake, you could wear it that way if you liked. It is very comfortable, and a big part of that is the quality of the shape of the lugs and the souplesse of the strap. Now you'll note the lugs themselves do turn down rather dramatically, so this is not the same thing as a straight lugged 68 millimeter lug-to-lug watch. You'll also note that there's a camber and a curvature about the underside of the strap and the lug, so it does trace the arc of your wrist, and the strap itself is very thin, supple, pliant. It has some small striations on the underside to better grip the wrist, oversized minders, and a handsome, somewhat darkened and distinctive. This is a highly non-standard pin buckle for quick on-the-fly adjustments. You'll note that even on the opposite flank, there's a little bit of an angling to the apertures for the buckle. Thoughtful design throughout to make it fit better and easy to adjust on the fly should you wish. Now the case back is flat and regular in shape, as you can see. Rather confusing bit of imagery, as what appears at first glance to be a Union Jack is actually the Devon logo. Tread 1, made in California, that's a fact. Although Teslas are made in NorCal, this SoCal product does feel like the spiritual kin to the Tesla Model S, X, and 3, as it's an electronic high-tech product made in Cali, not just designed there like an iPhone, but actually made in California. The serial number starts with a B. This is the Tread 1B, B for black. There are several different iterations, each one starting with a different initial. The alphanumeric continues with a 14, so this is the 14th Tread 1B made. It's a very flat, even, and comfortable caseback form. The timepiece features a complex case that has 5 principal sub-assemblies and many individual components. You'll note that it's more or less a rectangle with rounded flanks. Let me zoom out a little bit. Really, I filmed desk clocks on this channel that required me to back out my camera considerably less than this Tread 1. The satin finish that dominates the case is handsome, and the hardware, such as the bolts, are contrasting bright silver steel. Now you will note the facets and the curves are many, but the dominant part of the style is the dial itself. The crown, though it looks like a crown, is a skeuomorph, giving me a rare opportunity to use that word in a video review. It's actually a 3-way switch that you turn and push. We'll describe the function of the watch in a moment. but the timepiece is dominated by a huge open dial, if we can call it that. Let's call it a watch face. That feels like a more natural name for what we're looking at. Now, the Devon Tread could be considered an even four-way splice between a supermarket checkout conveyor, an exercise treadmill, a Harry Winston Opus 9, and Johnny 5 from Short Circuit. Kids, if you don't know Johnny 5, YouTube, different tab, keep me streaming, look him up. Okay, basic stuff. It is mostly motors and wiring with 4 individual belts. The belts are made of nylon. They are 2/1000ths of an inch thick, and they're all fiberglass reinforced, rather like what you'll find in the timing belts of an automobile, or if we want to be quite literal, this is the actual hardware that was used on many analog flight deck instruments during the 20th century before Boeing aircraft, for example, went over to full glass cockpits. The belts and the systems with indexed pegs are brought right over from aviation gauges. The pivots for all of the high wear, high torque components actually move on ruby roller jewels. The entirety of it is powered by 4 individual motors. If you've wondered why the Tread 1, which is not a chronograph, costs a lot more than the Tread 2, which is a chronograph, it's because this one has twice as many belts, twice as many motors, and twice as many sensors. About those sensors, in conjunction with the motors and the timing circuit, the optical sensors actually tell the watch where the belts are. How do they keep all of the individual digits lined up perfectly with the apertures for seconds, minutes, tens of minutes, and hours? It's the optical sensors. Grand Seiko uses something similar to this in the 9F quartz calibers, a lash adjustment system to keep the hand centered on the indices. This uses optical sensors and a computer circuit. It does feature a microprocessor. It is a quartz watch. It is accurate to roughly half a second per day or 15 seconds per month, and impressively, it is a thermocompensated circuit. Let me talk a little bit about how it works, because I'm boring you with the verbiage. So you have a thermocompensated quartz caliber, a microprocessor, optical sensors, 4 motors, and 4 belts. When you push the crown once, you activate the watch. It always knows the time, even when it's not in active running mode. It maintains memory. But what you see now is constant seconds scrolling. You have single-digit minutes, tens of minutes, and hours. So if you want to be technical, it's a jump second, a jump minute, and a jump hour, as well as a regulator, since all of these displays are separate. Now listen. You hear that? If you're Kim Jong-un and you collect luxury watches, Swedish supermodels, and supercars, you can use this metronomic-like beat, which is relentless and loud, to torture prisoners in your dungeon. Everyone else, if you need to be discreet for church or meetings, you turn the crown counterclockwise and hold till it centers the index at 0. Now it's only going to jump the minutes and the hours. This is silent mode. You turn it off by pushing the crown and everything resets. The one change being that instead of zeroing or showing you seconds, the seconds belt now settles between 0 and 1. It is a power reserve scale when the watch is in off or standby mode. Let's turn it back on. The timepiece features a lithium polymer battery that charges wirelessly using an induction charger that's provided with the watch. When it's on its charger, if you get very close, you can almost hear a very high-pitched and faint whine, like a Dremel tool 5 miles away. The timepiece features a 7 to 14-day power reserve between chargings, so it's far better than your phone and far better than your Apple Watch. It'll be about 7 days if you're running constant seconds, about 14 days if you are keeping the seconds static and using it in silent mode. What else? Well, the entire front of the watch, the cover, is a giant piece of thermoplastic. The idea being that this polycarbonate shield is so large and dramatically cambered that if it were a sapphire, it would be a significant shatter risk because of its sheer surface area. So it's made out of polycarbonate. The Tread 2 features a sapphire. The other thing is, for practical purposes, think of it as a minute repeater, since its water resistance is effectively nil. Devon advertises that water resistance is effectively moisture and dust only, do not submerge. Now, the nice thing about the watch is, in addition to being made in California, it's serviced in California. You call Devon, you get a real human person to update you on your service order, and I've seen full overhauls come back in 2 weeks, and that includes if you need battery replacement. I should also mention that on the Goffberg side of the house, we are authorized dealers of Devon, so whether the Tread 1 or the Tread 2 is your bag, we can actually hook you up. Now, the timepiece, is wonderfully comfortable, unconventionally shaped, and yes, it has a heartbeat. So though technically an electronic watch, it has the feel and the sound, the sensation and the romance of a mechanical product. And perhaps most compellingly, Scott Devon is one of us. He made the watch of his dreams. You know something? That's the kind of man I admire, whether his watch fits my wrist classically or not. Decide whether the Devon Tread 1 is for you on the watch box, and buy this one, or get a new one on Govberg.